It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin a Thursday. Gary, how's it going?
Well, doing what I always do. We're both doing what we always do, just observe the idiocy that exists out there. We thought we would start with this.
All right.
And this is because there was an all-out push yesterday, and I found it interesting because the talking points went out everywhere. And you had the White House with their surrogates yesterday out there telling the American public, who for some reason don't understand that we have an incredible economy right now. And the economy is incredible. And that, the Inflation Reduction Act is a wonderful thing. Not because it reduced inflation.
Because it handed out so much government money?
Right, because that and it's handing out so much government money. And as the president said yesterday, if you want to buy, look at all the incredible energy savings Americans are getting by buying heat pumps and solar panels. And it was just, but there's more than just that. I mean, his surrogates were out yesterday. In fact, this is the one that I have to play because this is the one where we can. Playing this audio cut, Eric, allows us to play a golden oldie.
Yeah.
Now, we know that, we have a hip audience that probably are, they're into the new tunes, but once in a while you like the classic rock. I mean, even I'm into a lot of the new stuff, but I like the classic stuff, which is why I went to the classic rock concert last week.
It's Throwback Thursday. And for those not paying attention, Throwback Thursday in and of itself is a throwback.
Because it's so old. That's great. The classic throwback. But it was Robert Reich yesterday talking about the economy. All right. Here he is on MSNBC. And like I said, I was like, wow, they're everywhere. This was, of course, it's all calculated. But the surrogates were out everywhere promoting that the American public we don't understand why the American public doesn't realize how great things are. Here's Robert Reich yesterday.
I think that's exactly right, Joy. They are trying to deflect attention from the fact that the economy is great. It's the Goldilocks economy. I'll tell you, I've been watching or participating in economic policy for at least 30 years, and I don't recall an economy that is this good.
There you go. All right, so that's Robert Reich. Now, understand that when you're talking about Mr. Reich, you have to take into consideration his mindset. Because the question I would ask him is, what makes a great economy for an individual? Because that's what you're dealing with. Individuals don't buy that the economy is doing great. Why? Because their economy is not doing great. Why? Because of inflation. Mm-hmm. But understand that Robert Reich has a different way of thinking. For example, what he views as a great economy probably doesn't fit the majority of Americans' views as what makes a great economy, just like it when it comes to what our healthcare system should be. Mm-hmm. Robert Reich probably is not in agreement with the majority of Americans. And we go back to an audio cut from 2009 where Robert Reich was talking about health care. And if you were honest about health care, he laid out what the best we can do for health care in this nation is. Are you ready? Here we go. And again, this goes back.
Let me tell you a few things on health care. Look, we have the only healthcare system in the world that is designed to avoid sick people. And that's true. And what I'm going to do is I am going to try to reorganize it to be more amenable to treating sick people. But that means you, particularly you young people, particularly you young healthy people, you're going to have to pay more. Thank you. And by the way, we are going to have to, if you're very old, we're not going to give you all that technology and all those drugs for the last couple of years of your life to keep you maybe going for another couple of months. It's too expensive, so we're going to let you die.
Now, first off, yes, this was at Berkeley, and so you see that there was just a small, applause when he said young people are going to have to pay more because they're young people.
In fact, it sounded like only one person was doing the clapping. Yes. Other people were just kind of, wait, what did he say?
But letting old people die is what got much more greater applause from the people at Berkeley. Yeah. So understand that's the best that Robert Reich expects out of a healthcare system in the United States. Mm-hmm. So you have to take that into consideration.
Yeah.
If that's what he believes the best healthcare system would be in this country, then you have to question, well, wait a minute, Mr. Reich, if you think that's what the best healthcare system would be, I have to question your judgment on how you come up with this is the best economy in 30 years. Because I am suspicious as to whether your opinion has any credibility at all.
Yeah.
We still have never gotten an answer from him when he says we have a healthcare system that avoids the sick. I still don't understand
he's
that.
Now 77.
Yes.
So I would love to hear that revisited by him. Old people, you can go to the hospital and get as much treatment as you need. How things change over the years.
I'm an old person now.
That's right.
So that's what I'm thinking.
My views say on a number of things have changed over the years. Like early bird specials. When I was young, it just meant that if I went to a late lunch, oh my gosh, here we go. But now that I've had some years to think about it, it makes sense. I like it. Love to hear from Robert Reich in 2023, the 77-year-old Robert Reich, and see if he feels the same. Come on. You know, it's funny because maybe he's grappling. Maybe he grappled and evolved like Obama did on gay marriage. It's a load of garbage. He's evolving. He's grappling. He's grappling. Yeah. No. It's, this is, when you live in that delusion, of course, you're going to say today's economy is great. Look at the economy. It's great. It's great. It's great. It's great.
And
I saw some people trying to make the case that you've got companies that are moving to certain states and setting up shop in certain states because of this is liberals making this case, because of the Inflation Reduction Act. Well, number one, it's more government money act. It's not about inflation reduction. And those companies are bound to take a government handout. If they're getting free money from the government, that's nothing new.
The Democrats are doing what Democrats screamed about just a couple of years ago.
Right.
Why are we subsidizing companies?
Right. These bailouts for these corporations, and that's where they'll be tomorrow. All during the day on Wednesday, it was this weird thing. Look at what the Inflation Reduction Act is doing. Look at all the great benefits of the Inflation Reduction Act. I thought to myself, are they going to just do a flash mob where they all just start singing and dancing in the middle of a, CNN segment? Inflation Reduction Act. Inflation Reduction. Who was it that did sing on the set? Was that Don Lemon? Somebody was singing on the set.
Oh, yeah.
Was it about gas prices? He was dancing on the set.
Yes, remember it went down like 2 cents?
Yeah, and he was dancing about it.
He was like, this is incredible. It's gone down 2 cents. Let me just show you how this was coordinated. Here's on MSNBC on Morning Joe. Here's Chuck Schumer yesterday. There we go.
Our economy is doing so well, and it's in good part because of the work we in the Senate and the president did over the last summer.
And they're talking about the inflation, and underneath it says Biden signed Inflation Reduction Act 1 year ago today, which is why they were all out to talk about how wonderful the economy
Look
is.
Look at the effects.
A year out.
Right.
But it was really amazing. I mean, there were some tough questions that were asked that we will get to because some of the surrogates were out there yesterday, including John Podesta. Man, he's really poor. He's just He's not really good. And then Biden continued on the lies about the great deficit reduction that we have. He just continued, and everybody's picking up on it because it was what he had the lie the other day about, again, the Amtrak. What was the other one about the bridge collapsing that he said he saw? I mean, there's just lies left and right coming out, and here he is again yesterday.
We actually cut the federal debt, the deficit, by $1.7 trillion. You hear me? The first 2 years, we cut the debt by $1.7 trillion.
That's a lie.
That's absolutely false.
It's a lie. And he just continues with that over and over again. And then this is the one here where he talks about how Americans are saving on energy. Because this was a key thing yesterday, that Americans are saving on energy. They're not saving on energy. Energy is way up from where it was when he took office. But how do they get to that point that you are saving energy? Like, well, how do we get to the point? Everybody knows it's not true. How does he get there? Here we go.
But this law is helping families save thousands of dollars in energy bills every year through the tax credit and rebates to buy new and efficient electric appliances, weatherize their homes, install heat pumps, rooftop solar.
So if you've got thousands of dollars to spend, you get some subsidies, but you still have to spend thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And that's how you're saving money. In your everyday energy use, you're not saving money. You've got to spend thousands of dollars to spend less money.
You got to spend tens of thousands of dollars to wait on your return on investment.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. So take your average monthly energy bill and then see where your return on investment after spending all that money is going to be, and that includes maintenance and or replacement.
I was having a discussion with my father yesterday because I was I finally got the condensation line. Spending the day in the attic over the last couple of days has not been fun. It's hot up there.
Yeah.
But I finally cleared out the condensation line, and I was telling him, the people are going to come anyway. I get my check, and every time they come to check it, they come in and they say, well, the insulation in your roof is, it's 15 years old. You need to get it replaced. And it's like last time it was like $7,000. And I went, okay, let me do the return on the investment of doing that. Looking at my electric bill, and it would take me a long time to recoup that.
Yeah.
Take me a very long time to recoup that. I would not be in the house. I don't think I'd be alive to be able to recoup the cost of that.
No.
And so, I mean, those are just some of the things that you look at, even with the subsidy I may get for insulation. The federal subsidy, if I decided to do it now, I'm not going to get a return on that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what most people are looking at. So it was a desperate attempt yesterday. We'll have more audio coming up throughout the show today because everybody was out. Everybody was out. Democrats were out across the board just trying to promote the thing. Number one, the economy is great, and you're saving thousands of dollars a year on your energy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just the most bizarre thing.
Yeah, no, you're not. Not until you repay the investment of buying and installing the solar panels. Once they're fully paid off, Then you start saving. Let me know when that happens.
866-90 Red Eye.
Keep your engine humming in the heat this summer by keeping up with preventive maintenance. Think your PM is complete after your oil is changed? Think again. There's grease, transmission fluids, and gear oil to consider too. Transmission fluid, for example, prevents wear of gears, bearings, and bushings, protects against corrosion, and acts as a heat transfer fluid. You may not think about this every time you get behind the wheel, but as soon as it's not doing its job, you'll notice. Misapplication of transmission fluid can mean reduced fuel economy and abrupt or hard shifts if the static friction is too high. It can also cause sluggish operation at low temperatures if the viscosity is too high and leaking through seals if viscosity is too low. This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Hurley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Of course, Karine Jean-Pierre had to talk about the Inflation Reduction Act and all of its positive aspects. And, of course, yesterday we got her normal intellectual stimulation.
As you all know, today is the first anniversary of the Inflation Reduction Act. Most 1-year-olds can barely walk. But this one is this 1-year-old is up and running.
They workshopped that in a room with multiple people.
I thought the same thing. They're sitting around a table.
That, and that's what they went with. I want to know what didn't make the cut. Most 1-year-olds, just sit around in a dirty diaper. Not this one. Well, this one has a dirty diaper too, but we're not here to talk about dirty diapers. That's probably one of them that didn't make it. 1-year-olds, they sleep a lot. Like every few hours, they go back to sleep. But not this one. Wow. Biden telling some kids at the White House, I know where to get some great ice cream.
Yeah, I saw
Daddy owes you, he said. No, that's not what Hunter says. Hunter says it's the opposite. You owe Daddy.
Well, it does give us an opportunity yesterday because, and we have taken full opportunity to talk about it because Biden has promoted Bidenomics. And we said politically when he came out with that's a mistake because people are feeling inflation. And now the talking points from Democrats is Bidenomics is wonderful. And we said, well, what is Bidenomics? Does anybody actually know what it is? Seriously, what, Bidenomics and what the government is doing. And as we have said, what Bidenomics is the government taking your taxpayer dollars and giving it to unprofitable companies to create products that the government wishes industry to make, that the public is not demanding and is impossible even in the future with subsidies to make money for those corporations. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that there it is right there, Wall Street Journal. Bidenomics and the new political subsidy economy.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Yep. 866-90-RED-EYE if you want to join us. 866-90-RED-EYE.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And so the administration and all their surrogates, including the media, were doing all the talking points yesterday on the one-year anniversary of the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act and telling us how great and wonderful it is. Reporters were asking some decent questions. For example, you had John Podesta out there yesterday promoting the Inflation Reduction Act, and this was a question asking about the safeguards because people know it. They know what's going on. They remember Solyndra. They were Proterra just a couple of weeks ago, maybe in the last 10 days, filed bankruptcy. All these companies receiving subsidies, but they can't make a profit because they're producing something that Americans don't want, that the subsidies don't cover the cost of even manufacturing, and these companies go bankrupt. So the reporters know it because here's one question yesterday to Mr. Podesta.
During the Obama administration, of course, then Vice President Biden oversaw a lot of the stimulus spending, but didn't foresee the $528 million loss that was Solyndra. As president more recently, he heralded the electric bus manufacturer, Proterra, but it went out of business last week. So I'm wondering if you can speak to some of the safeguards and steps that you've taken to steward this public taxpayer money and ensure that there won't be another Solyndra.
Yeah, I'll just be very, very quick. From day one, I asked that the inspectors general convene, and we've done that under the leadership of the Department of Interior Inspector General, to ensure that each of the grant programs and loan programs had the highest level of, they're independent, but had the highest level of input from the inspector generals to avoid chasing the horse when it's out of the barn, try to make sure that the program design kept the horses inside the barn.
Okay, that's the kind of talk we get from them.
Yeah.
And of course, that means nothing.
Is it a one-year-old horse?
Well, let's put it this way. Probably isn't going to win the Kentucky Derby at 2 years of age. And, you know, this is where it gets back to what drives an economy. And we live in a nation that is ignorant, completely and totally ignorant on economics. Mm-hmm. And a media that I believe is completely ignorant on economics. For example, this about 2 weeks ago was a big issue. I'm sure you saw it. And I was like, okay, I got to put this away to talk about it when it relates. And it was the whole, did you see the number of articles about how Taylor Swift is helping to boost the economy?
Yeah. Right.
And it was all over the place about how Taylor Swift, I mean, the economic impact she's having. Mm-hmm. Well, she's having an economic impact in the areas where she may be bringing in outside money. Mm-hmm. And if she's bringing in outside money, for example, if she's playing here in Dallas and she plays at Cowboy Stadium, whatever it is, AT&T now, I guess, plays there and draws in 1 million people because that's how many it can fit there. No, if it draws 100,000 people, well, all those 100,000 people don't come from Arlington, Texas. Mm-hmm. So they may come from the suburbs. Some people probably would fly in for it. So there is that economic impact, but those are recreational dollars. What truly drives an economy is producing legitimate goods and services, and those services that drive the economy are the services that increase efficiency and productivity. Yeah. And the goods are something that you can sell, a new good that you have created, and that good is actual wealth that you can sell not just here, but worldwide. Mm-hmm. That's why, for example, if you used to put in a car company that was making profitable cars that they could sell all over the world, gasoline vehicles, well, each one that you produce is a creation of wealth. The net wealth of a country, of a community, goes up because they're producing actually something that people can use, and the services that increase productivity and efficiency, that's what drives an economy. Now, we do live where we judge a GDP by money movement. And that's why, for example, when you have, and this debate always goes on, when taxpayer dollars are used to build a stadium, well, you have to understand the money that this, will bring in to the community and the construction jobs and everything else. But what you're failing to realize is that those dollars are coming from other productive purposes that would be invested into companies that are actually producing wealth and services that create efficiency that would multiply that dollar because of the wealth that it creates. And that is the failure of, I think, the American education system, because people are absolutely clueless to how an economy actually runs.
Look, since the beginning, we've been about the expansion of wealth, taking something that's in the ground that has no value in the ground and immediately has a demand and a value when it's processed above ground. These are things that are, in terms of tangible items outside of the service industry, these are things that you can look at and say, okay, that's what this is about. When you don't include the wealth expansion, everything else starts to eventually catch up with you. If you're going to base your economy on government money being passed out, when there is no wealth expansion to support, to fund that government money, then you leave out the biggest part of the equation. You're taking from the till, and at some point it has to be paid back. You can borrow. That's great. But what we're doing here is the equivalent of someone opening a business and saying, I'm going to go to the bank, I'm going to borrow $500,000. And then you just never go into business.
Yeah.
You have no revenue stream. I was reading a fascinating story about a guy who did very well in sales, automotive sales, and then he started getting these high-end boats. He bought some high-end boats. He borrowed some money, and he's making, a ton of money now renting out these boats. And this is, things that where you look at, all right, what is a business model? That has to be applied in the public sector. Because when Obama said, you didn't build that, he was wrong. Because what he was saying to these business leaders, you didn't build your business because the government built the roads and the bridges. Well, we stopped him the moment we got on the air that night and said, actually, we built that too. Because you can't fund it without profits.
Everything we have in this country is built on legitimate profits.
Yep.
And legitimate profits of companies that are expanding the wealth or, because it can be both, increasing productivity and efficiency of the economic system.
Right.
And that's it. It's not hard. This isn't hard stuff.
Right.
And so what you get, when we get Keynesian economics, well, no, if government spends the money, remember the insane multipliers people would throw out, and it goes 16 times. No, because it doesn't matter where the money the government spends actually goes. It's where it's taken from.
Right. It all starts with that, the source. And there are things where you can say, all right, the expansion of roadways, creating shortcuts, expanding roadway, about half a mile from here, where the construction apparently is going to go on until the year 3035.
By the time that the construction is finished in Texas
we'll have
on
no
our roads,
cars.
There will be no more cars.
No, we'll be beaming by then. And the idea, though, is to accommodate more individuals. Now, in our neck of the woods, we have more individuals coming in at a rate that's higher than most areas. It is right now, our area is the boom in America. And this is, one of the conundrums, too, is they've done studies in these major metro areas when you expand these roadways. Now they've gone back over the years, and it's, well, you had people that wouldn't have taken those roadways before. They took the side roads and everything else, and now they see the expanded roadway, and they jump on it, too. So we fill it right in. And that's the tendency. I don't know where the answer is in that type of efficiency building, but the idea is to get people to work on time. They don't care about you going home. It's about creating efficiencies. I was one time I was in our area, and I was on a toll road, very expensive toll road if you do the math, if you actually pay your tolls. And it was dead stop. And I thought to myself, these people, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. Some of these people have to be on their way to work, and they have to be very late right now. And it's not the first time I've been in that situation. But the idea is to get people past that and to work. That's where everything happens. Expanding an economy, profits. Profits are necessary for all of it. Without them, then the government eventually fails. Because it is about other people's money. That's the only thing the government has, is other people's money, your money. The wealth you create for your corporation, the wealth you create for yourself, all of it is taxed. Those taxes go to fund all of it. So, yes, Mr. Obama, we did build that, and we built the roads and the bridges to get there.
Yeah. All private enterprise built all the roads. All the government infrastructure that exists only exists because of the legitimate profits of corporations that are expanding wealth, corporations and companies that are expanding, and that includes small business, that is expanding wealth and is also or increasing productivity and efficiency. And that's what drives an economy. Right. And what you have here, and it's very important that I think people understand, Bidenomics is doing the opposite. Yes. Bidenomics is about taking money from the taxpayer, putting it in businesses that, number one, the public can't afford the products that they're making.
Right.
So they keep subsidizing them more, and the public still can't afford to buy the product.
Right.
The raw materials that are needed to buy the product, our country has said, this administration has said, this government has said, well, we're not going to mine or get those products from here. We're going to get them from other countries that are enemies from us. We're going to throw the subsidies, though, in to make this. They can't make a profit because the public can't afford it.
Right.
The masses can't afford it. Some people can afford it, but not enough to make a profit. Right. It's a small minority, and because they're not asking for it. They're not asking for the product. The marketplace is not demanding that this product exists. And the government is the one that says, we don't care whether the marketplace doesn't want it. We want to force this upon you.
Yeah.
And that's how you build a successful economy.
Exactly.
It's actually insane, and it's proven by history to not work.
It fails.
We have judged all the economic systems by now.
Yep.
And where you're headed to is not just socialism, but when you see this here, the control of capital to the point of private enterprise can't exist, and the government would eventually have to take over, which is where you get the economic system, the economic and political system of communism, which is the government controlling the wealth, because they're using all the terms. Investment. The government is investing. Right. The government doesn't need to invest.
Right.
Why does the government need to invest in anything?
And true capitalism, you would have
companies,
banks that would be willing to loan companies money in order to make a profit if it's a sound business model. If it's not, it fails.
And so the whole thing,
period.
Because if the inspector general was doing their job, they'd say stop the subsidies completely. 866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. With the delusion being sold and the hallucination being sold yesterday by the administration on how great the economy is doing yesterday, do you think that Janet Yellen was handing out shrooms beforehand to everyone?
I don't know, but
so they would buy into the.
But China Trippin' with Janet Yellen is the name of my next band.
I like it. What type of music?
Well, it's going to have to be psychedelic, right? Psychedelic metal, man, all the way.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Listen when and where you want. If you can't listen live overnight. You know, in the first hour, we were talking about the economy and the fact that it was the one-year anniversary of the Inflation Reduction Act, which did nothing to reduce inflation. In fact, will increase inflation because of the money, the government money that's being spent and borrowed, which is what got us here in the first place. And so we talked about what really drives an economy, and it's profitable businesses making a legit profit and increasing the wealth of the nation through the products that they make, and taking natural resources and that don't have any value until they're pulled out of the ground and become something that is manufactured, and service industry that increases productivity and efficiency of the actual society. I mean, that's what really drives it. And what's happening here is, and we did this, when Biden first came out and really started pushing Bidenomics. You know, you hear Bidenomics is making the country great. And nobody bought it. The polls showed nobody bought it. Nobody still buys it. But we said somebody needs to define what Bidenomics is. And the only way you can define something is by what those that call it Bidenomics have stated they're going to do. And that's what we did. And it was easy to see, okay, what they want to do is subsidize unprofitable companies that produce products that Americans are not demanding, that cannot make a profit even with the subsidies. And you've seen it, for example, in the automobile industry and the billions of dollars of losses that they are incurring because of EVs, even though not just the subsidy at the end that goes to the consumer to make the cost of the car cheaper, but all the subsidies all along the line. You know, I always look back to, it's just something that I know because I'm from there originally and I pay attention to the news. The Tesla plant, you know, outside of Buffalo, New York, that they spent, you know, billions on, and they give to Elon Musk for $1 a year. Now, it's a huge subsidy to do something, you know, to do something like that. And so what drives an economy? And what they're trying to tell you is that's what drives the economy. And Wall Street Journal talked about it. When I saw it yesterday, I said, okay, they're on exactly, you know, they've defined it too, Bidenomics and the new political subsidy economy. And they talk about the fact of, they're talking that, for example, they're out there saying, well, we're seeing electric power projects. It's working because electric power projects are up 36.7%, all because we're investing. Public works spending increased 13.6%. We're building more highways and streets, 24% increase. Conservation and development up 30%. in the spending out there, and they're building all these things and doing all these particular projects, and they're saying that shows the success of the economy, that the success of the economy is based on taking your taxpayer dollars and the government figuring where they should spend it on. And those people who are recipients of that money, who may get a job because of that, that shows you that their economic plan is working. And then they go into it here and they say, okay, the 2021 infrastructure bill increased spending by $550 billion over 5 years, including $65 billion for broadband, $75 billion for the power grid, $15 billion for electric vehicles. The CHIPS Act handed out $280 billion over 10 years, which includes $39 billion and 25% investment tax credit for chip factories. The really big hitter is the Inflation Reduction Act, which includes $1.2 trillion in climate spending and tax credits over the next decade, and another $400 billion in government loans. Apart from wartime, we doubt that in the United States there has ever been a bigger splurge of government subsidies. All this inevitably produces a surge in investment. At least in the short term, GDP will see a boost, much as it did from the welfare payments during the pandemic. But the test of all this spending is not the number of new projects that break ground. It's whether those projects will be more productive than those that would otherwise have gone ahead if government had not directed the capital. The right public works can also increase productivity. We've talked about this, the interstate system where you produce that increased productivity. But if politicians invariably shower the money on projects that don't, we're still waiting for the productivity bump from the 2009 stimulus shovel-ready projects.
Yeah.
We've never seen it.
In fact, even Obama said the project wasn't so shovel-ready. Remember that?
Yeah. But even if they were, it did increase productivity, which is the key.
Right.
The IRA's, the Inflation Reduction Act, $1.2 trillion in climate subsidies, will inevitably cause investment distortions and unseen economic damage. As many economists have said, economic meddling produces effects that can be immediately seen, such as new factories, as well as the harm which isn't visible because you don't know where that money would have gone in productive purposes. But it would have gone for productive purposes because it would have been invested. And when you invest money, you're investing it where? In private projects. The IRA's climate subsidies are so large that companies almost have to grab them, lest competitors get an edge. And what a windfall it is for corporations. Panasonic expects to pocket $2 billion in tax credits each year for its battery factories in Nevada and Kansas. First Solar will rake in $710 million from the government this year for its solar panels. Nearly 90% of its forecast operating project is taxpayer funds. Oil and gas companies are plowing more money into subsidized green technologies because they can yield a higher return on investment than hydrocarbons with the subsidies. But without the subsidies, they can't do it. ExxonMobil plans to invest billions in hydrogen, carbon capture, and biofuels through 2027. That's $7 billion less that could be invested in oil and natural gas. Most of these green energy investments would not be happening if not for the subsidies. Banks in the Federal Reserve's lending survey reported tightening credit during the second quarter for commercial and industrial companies. Banks are asking for higher risk premiums and more collateral. Yet green energy businesses can borrow from the government at the Treasury rate. The IRA authorized the Energy Department to lend up to $400 billion for climate projects. Everyone is getting into the action. The energy loan officer said for the Treasury Department recently noted. After receiving $9.2 billion in a Department of Energy loan for 2 battery factories, Ford announced last month that it's throttling back its electric vehicle production targets amid mounting losses. In June, it announced 3,000 layoffs to fund EV transition. The transition to EVs is happening. It just is going to take a little bit longer. Well, what happens if Americans don't buy EVs? They may not have a choice, as Democratic states and the administration plan to punish automakers if they sell too many gas-powered cars, penalties that will be paid by customers and workers. The EV transition will subtract from growth in the coming years if auto sales and profits decline. Money from these subsidies has to come from somewhere. And that means the private economy in higher taxes and more government borrowing. One early cost may be flagging private research and development. Since the first quarter of 2022, research and development's contribution to GDP has averaged about half of what it did from 2018 to 2021. One reason is the expiration last year of the immediate tax credit for or tax break for R&D, but some companies may also be shifting investment from ROD to subsidize activities. The IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, is the heart of Bidenomics, which is about creating a new political subsidy economy. Perhaps all of this will bring us into a brilliant green future. More likely, hundreds of billions in mislocated investment will reduce future productivity gains and translate into slower economic and income growth. And it does. It hurts. And it doesn't help because when you look at it across the board, they're building products that are not as efficient as the products that exist today.
Yeah, right.
They're not as efficient. They
there's
cost
not
more,
and there's not a basis demand for them.
And so across the board here, as they're out there yesterday promoting, look at all the building here. Well, that's simply your taxpayer dollars, both paid out of your taxes and future generations with interest, which is causing, as we see, the deficit now to skyrocket. This is a result of it.
Yep. And
you know what it is. This is an economic shell game, is what it is.
Oh yeah,
it's purely an economic shell game.
Yeah,
you cannot run an economy through government subsidizing industries that cannot make a profit because the government is demanding what products the consumer buy. Well, if you think that runs an economy, well, then you've been dipping in to Janet Yellen's mushroom dish.
I wonder if they're serving any of that in Austin these days. The problem that they have, and they don't see it, which tells me many of them are clueless. Yesterday, when one of them was saying, oh, these companies, they all point to the Inflation Reduction Act as the reason that they did this or did that. You mean they took government money? They'll all do that. If tomorrow it's announced by Congress and the administration that all corporations in the U.S. will be getting a big check from the government, they'll all get in line. They're not going to turn that down. So what are you missing? What you're missing is it's a handout to nothing. Are they making a profit? Long term, are they going to make a profit? But really, the first question is, why do we need to give them money?
To save the planet.
It's under the guise, the false notion of saving the planet. Well, at best, it gets to what? Net zero. I don't know, a little girl named Greta told me net zero is not zero. That's where I learned it from. A young person. Because I'm hip.
And cool.
And cool. And sick
That's killer, man.
It's killer. It is wild.
That's so dope.
It's dope.
Speaking of dope.
Right back to Janet Yellen every time, doesn't it?
Just a
It's like
big circle here.
it just keeps making this vicious, tripping hard circle. But these are the the Treasury Secretary was tripping hard. Oh, we saw no ill effects. Wait a minute. Ill goes back to the Beastie Boys. So are you saying you didn't get high? Is she complaining she didn't get high?
Now she's fighting for her right to party.
I found that out later. I didn't know they were hallucinogenic mushrooms. I found that out later.
Well, when you do listen to both sides of a Floyd album.
You know who told me? You know who told me?
God.
They were no, Barney the dinosaur. I love you. Hey, are you feeling anything yet? Are you tripping? I'm serious.
We're so
the
doomed.
Treasury Secretary
we're so doomed.
is in China tripping hard. Oh, it was in the dish. Uh-huh. Who chose the restaurant? Me.
I'm going to make sure wherever I go this weekend, if anybody's serving brownies, I stay away.
Well, if you hear the server say, "Can I take your order?" What would you like to drink? Drink.
There may be a problem.
There may be a problem. My thought is,
if the plants start moving.
Yeah. Would you like a salad?
Yeah, if your salad starts moving, you may have eaten too many of Janet Yellen's mushrooms.
Yes.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Most owner-operators leased to larger carriers are paid on a per-mile basis or a percentage of revenue per load. The per-mile basis is most prevalent among larger fleets, percentage at smaller. Pay per mile tends to dominate discussions about pay just because it's easier to measure, and pay per mile often is wrongly used as the deciding factor in leasing to a carrier. While pay per mile can be a vital factor, it's not a cure for every ill, nor does it mean a big settlement check is coming an owner-operator's way. Why? Because pay per mile always must be considered in balance with gross revenue as well as total costs. Gross revenue can include flat mileage pay that varies by length of haul, percentage revenue pay, and more. Most importantly, though, for every revenue dollar generated, only part of that dollar is profit. But for every extra dollar of cost saved, the entire dollar contributes to profit. Knowing and understanding your cost to operate is fundamental to understanding the true value of any pay package. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Shell Rotella with advanced synthetic technology. For more information, go to overdriveonline.com to the Overdrive's Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on Business 101 and many other topics.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, at least this week we didn't have to talk about Barbie. At least that's finally out of the news.
Hey, did you hear that Barbie is now the highest grossing movie from the studio that made it? And I don't care even enough to know what the studio is.
No, we've moved on to the Blind Side. Story.
That's
Michael
kind
Orr.
of evolved, hasn't it?
Well, you see that.
I'm guessing a sequel's out of the question.
You see the whole thing that he wrote a memoir in 2011.
Yeah,
where he knew he wasn't adopted at that point. So,
right. Yeah, because he had said recently that he only recently found out.
Right. In the memoir in 2011, New York Post had that.
Mm-hmm.
But what I love is that the push now for Sandra Bullock to have to return her Emmy or whatever it is, Oscar, whatever she got for it. And then the Bradley Cooper, you saw that one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where
for Leonard Bernstein
movie
because he used a prosthetic nose,
right? And that's, I guess, the allegation is called Jew face,
right? Yeah, on social media they were saying, why did they hire a non-Jewish actor to?
Call and join the conversation. 1-866-90-RED-EYE. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Hurley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, what's the Bradley Cooper movie? It's I guess it's Maestro.
Maestro.
Called, right?
It's a Netflix movie.
Yeah. And Leonard Bernstein's family said they had no problem with Bradley Cooper playing it.
Well, they said
or putting on the
Leonard
nose.
Bernstein had a big nose.
Yeah.
And Bradley chose to do this, and we didn't feel anything on the set except for respect for who he was playing. And yet you can't, look, to me it's distracting. And the reason it's distracting is because when they do the prosthetics, with the makeup, unless it's a comedy, it doesn't work. And the reason it works for comedy is because it's so apparent. It's very apparent that that's not Bradley Cooper's nose. And I don't know that, there's the thing. When you're depicting somebody, especially like a Leonard Bernstein, I think you just play the person, or you find somebody, if that's what it's, the mission, whoever's making the movie, then if you feel it's necessary to find somebody that looks more like the person, all right, I get that. Back in his day, I would say, because to me, Leonard Bernstein looks kind of like a Judd Hirsch. But Judd Hirsch, it's you need somebody younger to play, of course, younger. Leonard Bernstein. New York Times had a piece on it, and they did a side-by-side of a young Leonard Bernstein next to a Bradley Cooper playing Leonard Bernstein wearing the prosthetic nose. Now, again, the nose is too distracting to me. I don't know that I'd be able to watch the movie because it's just, to me, it's just a distraction. It just doesn't look good. I don't care why they're doing it. It doesn't look good. But the side-by-side in the New York Times was a younger Leonard Bernstein, and it was also at an angle where, and it appears in that side-by-side, that the nose in the prosthetic being worn by Bradley Cooper is much larger.
Yeah, I saw that picture, too.
Well, if you look at other pictures of Leonard Bernstein, as his family said, and as anybody can see, he had a big nose. And in that one picture used in the New York Times, that, of course, was a different angle, whatever, it looked much smaller than the prosthetic. I still think the prosthetic is distracting. It's just, and maybe that's just me. It's when you do things like that, unless you're doing a Lord of the Rings or you're doing a comedy.
Seinfeld episode.
Yeah, right, exactly. It doesn't make any sense to me. Well, only makes a distraction, especially when you're talking about a Bradley Cooper who is a leading man character, and everybody knows, well, that doesn't look anything like Bradley Cooper. There are some prosthetics and makeup jobs over the years that were pretty good. Jack Nicholson in Hoffa. There were some, and some also, he kind of, I don't know. He kind of held his own face differently because he was playing the character or playing the person. All right, there's some things over the years that they have done. It's very hard for me to get past prosthetics again, and it's just me. I don't. Who knows what the movie will do.
I wouldn't care. I mean, that I will say though, it did look bigger, and I thought of Seinfeld saying, "That's not a nose, that's a schnoz."
Yeah,
exactly. That classic line.
Well,
but what I just love is the criticism, and it was like in Leonard Bernstein's family, like, let it go. He had a big nose, and
right.
The whole thing about, well, the actor playing him is not Jewish.
Yeah,
They're
that's
actors.
Well, there's the other thing too, and I think it was Sarah Silverman, and she had one comment. I actually don't know if she was criticizing or defending Bradley Cooper. I don't know, or the decision to have Bradley Cooper play Bernstein, but she said, well, Hollywood has been hiring non-Jews to play Jews for years. Well, the fact of the matter is everybody is, unless it's, what's his name? Nicolas Cage, who played himself in that movie a few years ago. All right. Other than that, unless you're playing yourself, you're acting. So how far do you want to take it?
Yeah, I mean, if there was a Leonard Skinner movie and they wanted to use Johnny Van Zandt to portray Ronnie,
that would make sense.
That would make sense, yes,
right.
Exactly.
They probably wouldn't do it, but yeah, that would make sense. But all right, are we going to get down to it and say, all right, everybody who plays a Christian in a movie must be a Christian?
Well, but you don't have to worry about that. Jim Caviezel has all those roles sewn up.
He's got most of them.
Half century.
He's got most of them. He's got at least a couple of them. But that would blow. Their brains would implode if you actually start holding them to their own standard. Because I think it was Neil Patrick Harris, when it started coming out that, all right, we need, if you're going to be, if the character, if the person being portrayed is gay, it needs to be a gay person. Neil Patrick Harris came out and said, wait a minute, I played a straight guy for years.
Yeah, he was one sleazy heterosexual, too,
right,
wasn't he?
Exactly. Yeah, there's the other one. If you're going to play a sleazeball, you got to be a sleazeball. If you're going to play a bank robber, have you robbed any banks? Do you know anything about it? This is how stupid it's getting.
Now, wait a minute, though. Now, my good friend Buck Taylor from Gunsmoke, he's almost always in a cowboy role, and he is in the Cowboy Hall of Fame.
Yeah, exactly. So he's good. Now, he can't be playing any non-cowboys.
And now, you know that when he was young, he was a gymnast?
Mm-hmm.
He told me that. I go,
yeah.
You were a gymnast? He goes, oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. But the thing is, with Buck Taylor, you just, every time you see him, you think of, him in Tombstone, with the cowboy hat on. And I always picture him doing gymnastics with the Western wear that he wears in my head.
Right.
I can't get my head around that one. But then I see him when he was young, and I'm like, okay. I'm like on Gunsmoke. He was young then. But
Jamie Foxx playing Ray Charles. Number one, Jamie Foxx is a musician. Number two, long before the movie. His impression of Ray Charles was just, great.
He was good
Just
in that.
awesome.
He was really good
Right.
in that movie.
And, you think about, okay.
Wait a minute. Speaking of anti-Semitism,
Yeah.
it's like the thing about it, he was sick. He didn't know what was going on. And the next thing it seemed like a week later, he's an anti-Semite. I'm like, wait, I thought he was sick. How did this evolve so quickly?
Yeah. No, it's, if you get lucky in Hollywood, you find somebody who can portray a person, if it's a real life portrayal, you can find people who get pretty close. Again, you're kind of lucking out when you do that. Or you get a really good actor who can, if you think about it, the guy that, I didn't like the Elvis movie, but the guy that played Elvis did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I started watching it. I couldn't get through 15 minutes of it. I can't tell you why.
I bought it because I thought I was going to like it, and
didn't
my wife and I turned it off after about 20 minutes in. I didn't like the weird in and out of a musical thing the way it was, and
maybe that was.
I just there are some great movies made about Elvis. My favorite is Kurt Russell playing Elvis, and that was a TV movie. But there are a lot, and now with so many documentaries and so many ways to find documentaries. Remember when you used to have to go to a library and rent a documentary?
Even Blockbuster wouldn't sell them. No.
Exactly. No, it's true. Where's your documentary section? It's over here. That's a trash can, dude. But it's, that's again, sometimes you get it right, and sometimes I don't know. I haven't seen the movie yet. Prosthetics kind of freak me out. It's just let the actor play the person. They're not always going to look just like the person. But that was the choice they made. Does it make Bradley Cooper or the creators of the movie, the makers of the movie, anti-Semitic? No, it doesn't.
That just got to the point of being stupid.
It is.
But then again, we live in a stupid time right now.
We
live in a real stupid time.
It's like they're taking stupidity courses. I would say at a college, but that's kind of a.
Or there's a new stupid drug.
Double statement, huh?
Since we've been on the narrative that everybody must be high because everything's insane, maybe there's a new stupid drug out there that
the thing
everyone's taking. Well, that's alcohol.
Yeah. Years ago, I said that when you start on the wrong premise, everything that follows might sound logical, but it's still wrong because you began on the wrong premise. And when a lot of this type of criticism started, you could have talked about a number of things along the way, but it was very clear that they were making it up as they go along. And now Hollywood is feeling the pushback of the cancel culture. The cancel culture wanted to cancel everything, and then all of a sudden Hollywood and corporations started getting antsy about what we can do and what we can't do or what we should do and why it's important to make this movie right now and all these things. And you say to yourself, all right, where does it make sense? They decide to put agenda in it, and then Target wonders why their profits are down. They decide to. You look at all the movies they've had to cancel, not because of the strike, but because testing audiences said no. No. Every time they throw in agenda, call it wokeness, whatever you want, but it's been agenda, and change something just for the agenda, and the entire path is only about the agenda, then you've lost your way, because Hollywood is only about entertainment, and it's only entertainment.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Getting interesting, the investigation into the wildfires in Hawaii and Maui. Wall Street Journal with an article yesterday that the Hawaiian electric provider focused on climate change and has been neglecting the wildfire risk for a significant period of time. Now, that's what they believe. They believe that it might have. I mean, it's not, it's not proof positive yet as to what caused it, but there is a belief that it came from the electrical wires. And this Wall Street Journal news story, actually very interesting yesterday, so we'll get to that. All right, what happens if Trump continues to refuse to sign the loyalty pledge but shows up at the debate anyway?
Yeah, they going to enforce it?
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, 866-90 Red Eye. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome. Good morning. Thanks for being here. Download our app today, our Red Eye Radio app. Listen when and where you want if you can't listen live overnight. So I just finally listened to, just during the top of the hour, that viral song, Rich Men North of Richmond. Oliver Anthony, the conservative anthem and everything else that you hear. And, it's like, all right, I understand. It's, quite populist in some of the lyrics, but it's okay. Whenever a song, when people attach to a song, and I've seen liberals and conservatives, it's the elite, and you gotta be more direct. And that's when I see the lyrics, I'm like, okay, you're trying to make a point, but is your point accurate?
Well,
is it everybody in Richmond, north of Richmond, which is, they believe is Washington, D.C., is what he's talking about. Or is it specifically liberalism? Those that embrace liberalism, whether they're on the right or left. The modern liberalism of today.
Right.
What is it really about?
Well, if you're writing a song and you're going to be direct about it, it's not going to be a great song, because you're going to have to get into the weeds, and that's not going to, it's likely not going to rhyme, and it's not going to. So when I see that, it's like, okay, listen to the song. It's like, oh, okay, all right, okay, I kind of get the point, but it really is a populist approach, which has been going on for a long time. The viral nature of it is interesting, I guess, because the performance is pretty good. But aside from that, I mean, is it really a conservative anthem?
Well, because basically, unless you're rich men. In fact, I saw someone just saying, was it rich? Somebody was calling it just rich men. Now, not taking the fact that it's specifically about Washington. Where was it here? Where did I see it? Because here, Taste of Country has Oliver Anthony, Rich Men of Richmond. Mm-hmm. No, it's north of Richmond. It's supposed to be, and it seems to be, to me, I understand what I understand what he's saying, but for us, because we do talk radio, it's more specific. What exactly is going on that's screwing up society? And when you say rich men north of Richmond, what I believe is the liberals that I've heard talk about this, basically, this is the problem with greed in the country.
Yeah, right.
And it's the rich versus the poor, which I don't believe that's what he's singing about.
It doesn't come off as that.
No, I don't. That's not at all. I think he's talking specifically about what comes out of Washington. Now, what comes out of Washington that sucks? Liberalism. Mm-hmm. The modern liberalism that every single issue that we talk about today. So that's me I guess it's me wanting more, and you make a great point. It's a song. It's not supposed to get into the weeds.
I mean, you kind of write something that which is really what drives the viral nature of it is the wording, the phrasing that gets people's attention. But the question is, all right, what kind of impact does it have? I guess really it's about how any individual applies that thought conveyed in the song. So the performance is good. It's a good performance. Seems like a very capable artist. I try not to, when you see things in the echo chamber, and a lot of it has to do with what we do for a living. But when you see it just, traveling on through the echo chamber, it's like, all right. It's, I can see that, I guess, being maybe has anybody used it at a campaign stop yet? Anybody had him at a campaign stop yet? I'm expecting that, by the way. That's why I asked that. So I could see that happening, but other than that, it's one of those things that's kind of a populist moment that's kind of played out in American history repeatedly. If you think about it, clever phrasing. That's what drives the viral nature of it.
The thing is, so when you talk about the rich men of Richmond, mm-hmm. what the song again, and again, it's just a song, mm-hmm. but what I want communicated is the fact that that it's almost as if the rich men are controlling the people instead of the fact that the people are voting these people in because they agree with their policies. It's not that we're all victims. We all love to be victims. Mm-hmm. That seems to be the new thing. Let's be a victim. But the fact is, the reality of Washington, D.C. exists with what he's talking about that he dislikes because this is the way that we have voted. Every problem that we have today is because we voted politicians in to do it. It's not that they attained power through being in a dictatorship.
Right.
They made their case to the American people or the district that they were in, and they got voted in.
Right.
When you think of the people that promote the most radical policies in this nation right now, they are long-established Democrats that have been around for decades and get voted in and year out.
Yep.
So this whole thing that, because that's the whole Richmond of Richmond to me gives the impression that there's these rich people, and it's not the richness of the people. It's not the money that they have. It's the ideas that they have.
Like, for instance, at the White House, everyone knows that Joe Biden's was for the longest time one of the poorest members of the Senate. Now, his son changed all that. But this idea of, their wealth and that they're sitting up. Look, many of them do live on a pedestal, but it's not their wealth paying for it; it's yours. And that's I guess when you get into the actual thought that is conveyed, it really comes across as their wealth drives everything, and that they are leading and they're making the laws, and it has nothing to do with the people that voted them into office.
Or the fact
and that's
that
false.
In the song, basically he's talking about inflation. He's working like crazy and still can't afford stuff because prices are too high, taxes are, but everything that exists there is what the majority of Americans have voted for. So it's not like these rich people through greed are controlling us. They're controlling us because when you look, for example, of what caused inflation, it was things that Americans at that time all agreed to do. Not all agreed, but the majority agreed was the right thing. The polls showed until you got to the point of inflation, then Americans didn't like it.
Yeah.
But the fact is Americans like the free cash, as we found out. So I just, for me, I'm reading some of the headlines here. Rich men of Richmond punches down. No surprise, the right wing loves it. Oliver Anthony's Rich Men North of Richmond is an instant smash among conservatives, white progressives, wild progressives. Wild progressives wonder if he's a plant. I don't know. I just look and go, okay, what's the message? And that's why I look at it. It's sort of like it's the greed message instead of what it really is, which is the fact that, we talk about greed. It's almost that they're greedy, we're not. Well, we love the free cash. We're in a nation right now where the public doesn't give a damn that we're borrowing from our children and grandchildren. That's greed. That's the definition of greed. I want something now, and I want to put it on future generations, and I don't care about it. I don't want to think about it. I just want to promote the fact that I'm a victim. And there are some victims out there. If you're somebody who's been fighting against this for the longest time, and you've been fighting against, the liberalism that exists today, you can look at yourself and say, yeah, but I've been fighting against this. I don't want the handouts. I don't want this. But the vast majority of American voters over the past 40 years don't fit that definition.
No.
And so, I guess that's where I come from when I heard the song and then went through the lyrics completely. I'm like, well, conservatives are jumping on this? It's like, okay, I understand the point, but it's not because when you use words in a title, Rich Men North of Richmond, it's the rich, they're rich and we're poor, and that's the problem. That isn't the problem.
No.
So
no,
there you go, me destroying a nice song that people like to listen to.
Way to ruin it for everybody.
Yeah, but here's the part. Everybody BS's in some way. Or gets the message wrong.
Yeah.
I won't say he's BSing, but I believe he gets the message. He doesn't explain his message fully enough. And by using rich men of Richmond, and he's not, and he's suffering, it's the rich versus the poor, that's the problem. And that is not the problem in the United States at all. And if there's greed, it's not just the greed of the rich. It's the greed of the people that wish to get a free ride and put it on future generations. And you can't forget that. That's the most immoral thing that we are doing right now as a nation that has the majority of the public just ignoring it or for it. Because we heard, even up till a year ago, people would call this show, oh, the debt's no problem, the debt's no problem, the debt's no problem. You guys are over-exaggerating the debt problem. Nobody's saying that anymore, are they? And then they revolt, and they're horrified when the effects of the free lunch start hitting them.
My new song, The PC in D.C., will be out next month.
I like that.
It's funny, but here's the bad.
How about
what's the worst part of that, though? Nobody says PC anymore.
Okay, woke in Washington.
Yeah. Woke and broke. Woke and we'll work on it. Yeah.
Woke south of Baltimore.
woke in America. Where is it not happening? Yeah, it's when things go viral, typically it is people. Oh, look, and it's usually all right. Clever lyrics, right? Clever title, but using it as an anthem. I'll stick with Lee Greenwood.
Or Zappa.
Lee Greenwood.
Watch out for the yellows. No.
Yeah.
Watch out where the Huskies go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Watch out where the Huskies go. That's it.
Yeah. I'll stick with Lee Greenwood. Yeah. Zappa wasn't anthem ready.
Zappa would have. He would have never been anthem ready. I don't care what.
Yeah.
I don't think he was into anthems.
Yeah, exactly. He's the opposite of the anthem guy.
I was watching a biography of Alice Cooper, and when initially, the band was signed to, Frank Zappa's label. Alice Cooper was.
Mm-hmm.
Then Zappa said, I have no idea why. I have no idea what you're doing and why you're doing it. I'll sign you.
Yeah. There you go.
Now, they didn't end up staying with him.
Well, actually, that's how a lot of deals were made back then. It was usually this older guy that looked at it and said, I don't know what's going on here, why all these kids are coming to the club. But they're coming to the club. You're signed.
There was Zappa. There's a long thing on YouTube where he's talking about the cigar chomping guys in the back room were better than the so-called in people who supposedly knew music
because they saw it.
They sat there and went, I don't know what's going on here, but a lot of people are going there, and it seems to be selling. So sign them and see where they can go.
Yeah.
And he was saying the new record executives, and this would have been in the 80s he was talking about, are like, well, we know exactly where music is going, and this is where it should be, and Zappa was against all that. So, But some of his stuff was probably not palatable for a significant portion of the music listening population.
That's kind of if you think about it, that's kind of the beginning of the wokeness where things started to change, and A&R reps looked at artists for different reasons. You wanted an artist to make a statement. Nothing wrong with an artist making a statement. Back in the day in the 60s, my gosh, how many made a statement? You look at things, CCR, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
Yeah.
Marvin Gaye. All these artists along the way that have made statements. But if you're taking an artist or you're looking for an artist only for that quality, then you're missing the boat. Because you can crank up a CCR song, and the message might be, it might be a message song. But if it's a great song, that's the point. Born in the USA is used by a lot of people as an anthem.
I know.
It's not a pro-USA song.
No, not at all.
And
Reagan used it, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think Reagan used it. It was like, no.
Right. Well, Fortunate Son by CCR.
Yeah.
The same populist mentality of rich men north of Richmond.
No, it was, yeah.
Yeah. And so during a time of a draft.
But you could make that case with Fogarty there, even though Fogarty disagreed with a lot
I was
from
going to say,
Fogarty.
you
could
had
actually make that
case.
point that they would get, the rich people would be able to get the deferment.
Exactly.
Not to go to NOM.
Which was the entire spirit of the song.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Friday Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. North of $50 million. One Republican says the Biden payouts even are higher than reported. We will get to that. A free speech issue that a court looked at that we want to get to. And what happens if Trump refuses to sign the loyalty pledge for the debate next week, but shows up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that the end of the leadership of the RNC?
Well, because at that point they have to literally, well, not literally draw the line in the sand, but they literally have to make the call to enforce their rule. Right then and there. And then you've got Trump, and it would be the liberal media. Here's the thing. I don't know if they realize how that would play out. The liberal media would love to have a clip of Trump saying, they shut me out of the debate. And Trump would love for the media to have that. Because the pressure, the liberal media is doing it for a different reason, of course, but the pressure on the GOP would be enormous. All he has to do is one time. And at that point, everything just becomes for his. And keep in mind, in the polls right now in the primary, he's the king. And his base would say, this is stupid. The GOP would have to respond.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up here, mortgage rates could hit 8%, economists say.
Oy.
We'll get to that. Just one interesting thing here about a couple things I want to add about the whole Trump situation. I was seeing that a legal analyst on CNN was saying there's no planet on which Trump's case will be tried when the DA wants. And he talked about one of the cases with Willis's right now. They're in the eighth month of jury selection.
Wow.
Well, of it now. It's a gang. I don't know the case. It's a gang case, but they say the 8th month of jury selection itself. Mm-hmm. And the thing for Trump is to push it as far back as possible.
Yeah. In hopes that he could win, and then
right.
They proposed. By the way, the prosecutor proposed March 4th of next year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I thought to myself, well, there are going to be so many things where his team's going to ask for a delay anyway. Think about this. When you have that many people involved, and really, again, he's the big fish. That's the idea. We all know what's going on here. There's either you know what's going on, or you're not being intellectually honest. If you're for anyone who is paying attention, it's one of the two. And so then you ask yourself, all right, how does a case like this work? Well, because the DA wants to get it there March 4th. Well, wait a minute. His team, not just his team, the team of all of those that are named in the indictment, all those lawyers' teams, they're all going to be pushing back here, asking for this kind of delay, asking for time for discovery, asking for all of it. That's how the process is. But when you bring a massive, bloated, overreaching case, in my humble 30 years of watching Law and Order opinion, then expect it to take a long, long time. And it wouldn't shock me.
And what I was another thought that I was having yesterday, as I was up, I think I was delusional, but not from Janet Yellen's mushrooms.
It's from the low temperatures.
It was we did have low temperatures yesterday, but it was still really hot. It was like, and I had to post that on, I think on Facebook. Wow, massive cold front today. 97 is a high.
I did all my lawn work yesterday morning at 70 degrees. 70 degrees when I started.
I got up and did my lawn work, and then I was doing some just stuff because I all of a sudden when I woke up, I went, uh-oh, has the leak stopped? I was really having. I mean, I've had the wet vac hooked up to the outside, condensation port. I had it on for like 2 hours, and I went up. This is 2 days ago. Then went upstairs, and it's a wet vacuum. It'll sucks, but then it will also blower. Mm-hmm. So I hooked that up to the pipes and sealed all the other ones to blow it from the other end, the condensation pipe with the wet vac, and then I had put some whatever the warm vinegar vinegar and warm water down it. As I could feel a slight vacuum, but it wasn't what it should have been. Mm-hmm. When I had, and so it must have worked its way through because I woke up and it was gone. So I'm out there checking all this stuff, and I'm just the last 2 days I might have lost, I don't know, 10 pounds just from the sauna-like conditions that I was in. Yeah. But it's all water loss. But I was thinking that when you see, oh, by the way, Mark Meadows does have a point. He may, we said in general that most of, on the election stuff, because states run elections, you're probably not going to be able to get it transferred to the federal government. Mark Meadows may, because Mark Meadows was a federal officer. Mark Meadows being chief of staff, a state really can't charge him for things he did on the federal level of basically policy and communications with the president. Because he was just setting up meetings. He was doing his job as a federal officer, and state courts can't. He might have a case.
That's actually that does make sense because Trump was still president at that time, and he was still chief of staff at that time. It wasn't like Mark Meadows was advising him after he were no longer in office, part of a campaign, part of the effort. He had an official position. So the question is
Well, let's say that this case in January 6th, because they're both extremely poor cases. Mm-hmm. Let's say only one of them is done by that time, and he is found not guilty.
Yeah, right.
Everybody's talking about he's found guilty. And I say this because when you look at everything that we know now, that there was fraud, because they haven't proven fraud. In fact, they're in deep trouble. I was reading where Giuliani's in terrible financial shape right now. And he still has a Smartmatic's coming after him big time. And just to keep the records that Smartmatic wants is costing him tens of thousands of dollars a month. And you and I, we were just talking about it before, we have no idea. There were legit concerns about the last election, especially when states change rules.
Yeah, right.
Especially when states change the rules because of COVID. They were legit. We have no idea why they ever went after Smartmatic and Dominion. They made stuff up. Giuliani, Sidney Powell, they made stuff up.
If you had so much leverage in the concern on the state level, I don't even know why you would even go after. Because here's the thing. Giuliani and Sidney Powell both know how that works. You start accusing the private sector, these companies of something, you better have the proof the moment you start accusing them. And you better demonstrate that.
Well, one of the things that Trump, and so I started thinking about that. One of the things that Trump can use is, look, if we knew something was BS, we got rid of her. We got rid of Sidney Powell. Sidney Powell was stating this, and we got rid of her.
Right.
We didn't want somebody. We were looking at the legit concerns, and then you bring up everything that has been found out in it because she's bringing up everything nationwide. Well, then you bring up, we were concerned with this. We were concerned. Here's this newspaper article here. Here's these people that were, that were accused of fraud, even if it didn't make a difference in the outcome of the election.
Right.
Here's fraud here. Here's fraud here. Here's the Supreme Court of these states overturning, saying we're not going to do these things anymore. All these things were going on. We were encompassed. We wanted everything to go through judicial review. That's what we were looking for, and everything was about judicial review, including the alternate electors. But everything, if you do that, if you go through it like that, you have a good chance of finding one person on that jury that says, there's nothing here, even if the jury isn't in your favor in a highly, Democratic area. But I've been reading some people that live there, and they're saying this jury pool might not convict. That they get. Well, what if you don't have a conviction? But I think so many things have happened since then that they can bring in discovery because she went so wide to include the entire country and things that went on in other states as part of this enterprise, where then Trump can hit every single one of those states and say, here's what happened in this state, here's what happened in that state, here's what happened. No, it didn't go our way, but these improprieties happened, and look at what the Supreme Courts did. They chastised them, and we saw this all going on, and so we wanted everything under judicial review.
Right.
And it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense, because a lot of and because she waited so long to file these charges, there's a lot more, and there's state legislatures that change the rules as to the power that governors can have.
When it went back.
When it comes to elections.
As we said then, this is how it will work. We said this in 2020. This is how it will work. State legislatures will go back and review, and they will have to decide and be more specific on the guidelines and the limitations of the governor's powers. And that's exactly how it went down.
Now, Trump's supposed to come out with his own documentary or whatever it is, report on Monday. We'll see whether he helps himself or hurts himself. Because with him, you don't know. Because right now, the biggest trouble that he has gotten into in any of these cases would be the Mar-a-Lago case, which is what? Him speaking. He has created he himself has created the one instance where he is probably most legally vulnerable. I don't know if the evidence exists to get him, but they went after him, and the public says, "Oh yeah, well, this is what he said." It's sort of like the Democrats this week, where now they've been quiet on it. But Joe Biden, to show me one set of evidence that Joe Biden got any reward for any of this. Oh, Hunter's emails. Yeah. Hunter's text messages.
Yeah. His son.
So, I mean, that's when you have somebody, when you are, or somebody close to you was making it, but in the case of Trump, it was him stating it, and they got it on tape.
Yeah.
And so that's where he's most legally vulnerable. But there are so many things that he can bring up in the January 6th, too.
Yeah.
Because now he can go through all of January 6th. He can go through everything, security. Now, will the judge allow him to bring it in? But there's so much stuff where you may not see this come up. The dates of the trial even if the trial started in October, it might take 3 months to get a jury pool.
Or longer, yeah.
Or longer. And then Trump, who knows? And so, or it may not even come up. And that changes everything, because she has presented an extremely weak case. And I know somebody will bring up, well, the public believes 54% that he did something wrong. Well, can they specify specifically legally what he did wrong?
Right.
Or do they just hear in general what's going on?
Do they see it repeated in the liberal media, and they're just repeating what they hear being repeated?
My opinion is not based on that I'm conservative. It's not based that I love Trump or hate Trump, and neither is yours. It's based on what is the evidence and what is the crime that they're charging and what is the precedent in history when it comes to elections. And this has never been done before, and there's a reason it's never been done before.
It is such a massive overreach. It's overcharging to the nth degree. But you had to do it. You had to try the Hail Mary. And you had to be part of the, the relentless approach of just throwing things at him in order to create chaos in the media. And it just might work.
And it might not.
I hope it doesn't.
866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Hurley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Because you think about it, and you think, because every single count that they bring up and the counts against him, and because the DA decided to go nationwide, and include in it all the different things that happen in different states and how they responded to things that happen in different states, that means you can bring evidence to counteract those arguments in your discovery for maybe, I don't know, 150 different incidents that happened across this entire time, which gives the jury your mindset as to why you did it. And in many cases, like I said, very importantly, well, here's where legislature said, well, we gave the governor too much power. They shouldn't have done that. The Supreme Court decision, or some of the state Supreme Court decisions that said, no, you shouldn't have done that. That was illegal by the state constitution. All those things happening is what gave us the impression that what was going on, there was something wrong, and we wanted everything under judicial review. And when somebody said something crazy or something we didn't agree with or something that we thought was out of bounds, we did things like get rid of Sidney Powell off of our legal team.
Well, and on top of that, if his team is looking...
Or legal advisor, whatever you want to say.
If his team is looking to extend this out, then if they're trying to delay it, it's reasonable for them to say, we're going to need time for a proper defense because these charges go on and on and on
exactly.
and on.
Yep.
Discovery alone could take a long time.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Hurley.
Hi.
So I'm just reading this article from thehill.com. Trump refusal to sign loyalty pledge puts RNC in a bind. Trump said he would not sign the pledge last week and is expected to announce in the coming days whether he will attend the event. Which brought up my question. If he doesn't sign the pledge but shows up at the event and they don't put him on stage, what happens?
Well, if he's going to, if he's turned away, that's the story. Forget about the debate. That will be the night's story. There will be a few clips coming out of the debate between the three people on the stage.
I think you got Tim Scott is in. Pence is in. Ramaswamy.
Nikki Haley,
DeSantis, Burgum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like I said, the other three people on the debate. Let me phrase it correctly. The other two contenders on the debate.
Yeah, but Christie hasn't signed it yet.
Who? I'm sorry. What?
Well, he's been the most vocal on it. Really, He was talking about it a few times. Said it's useless, and then he said last week, I'll sign it, and I'll pledge just like Trump did, which means I'll say yes, but I mean no.
Yeah.
And what are they going to do if you sign the pledge and then next year after the debates are all over, the primary debates are over.
Right.
You say, nah, I don't think so.
Well, there's nothing you can do about somebody changing their mind. Like I said, if you think you need to be on that debate stage and your name isn't Trump, sign the pledge. Because everybody aside from Trump has a very clear need to be on that debate stage. I'm not saying he shouldn't debate and absolutely doesn't need to debate. He's going to have to eventually. But I don't know that he has to sign the pledge.
Well, he may not be at the debate, but he will be a part of the debate.
Yeah. Well,
because he will be watching the debate, and the media will only be watching Truth Social as Trump debates whoever attacks him on Truth Social, which the media will cover.
Right. Well, and here's the thing. You set up a live streaming event, and you can't show the debate, but you can pull points out of the debate along the way, and Trump comment on them. Which he may do anyway if he's not on the debate stage. But really, it comes down to a showdown between the GOP and Trump if he decides not to sign the pledge and he shows up.
RNC Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel must now navigate the thorny situation of appeasing Trump, both a ratings draw and the clear front runner in the primary, while maintaining her control as head of the party. It's a distinct possibility that the Republican nominee for president could simply decide to shun the RNC itself, said Brian Sedgwick, a Republican strategist and Trump campaign alum. When the candidate refuses to play by the rules, it obviously weakens the RNC's position. However, McDaniel has given no indication that the RNC will make any exceptions for the former president. Quote, "It's a beat Biden pledge," McDaniel told CNN's Chris Wallace in an interview last month. And what we're saying, and the debate committee has met for over 2 years with people from Alaska to Illinois to Tennessee, is if you're going to stand on the Republican National Committee debate stage, you should be able to support the nominee and beat Biden. Everyone has to sign the Beat Biden pledge. Everybody, she said, when asked by Wallace if that applied to Trump as well. It's across the board. The rules aren't changing. We've been very vocal about them. Well, the interesting thing is, it says the pledge states that the candidate will support the eventual nominee of the party's primary and that the candidate will not participate in any debate that the RNC has not sanctioned. The pledge is part of the criteria Republican candidates must meet to qualify for the first primary debate set for August 23rd. Well, the message that has been clear from one candidate, and that is that guy you don't know of apparently, Chris Christie. I mean, his message is I'll probably sign it, but I won't mean it.
Yeah.
which makes a mockery of it to begin with.
Right, which
I'll sign
it deserves that
yeah.
mockery.
Yeah,
because it means nothing.
I won't. And Trump now, just because he has stated I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to sign it.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if it affect him either way. He could do anything right now. His support's going to stay consistent with the Republicans.
Well, I mean,
that would have to be an extenuating circumstance that I haven't figured out what that would be yet for him to start losing. The indictments haven't done anything.
Yeah, it's what
to
exactly
stop,
what
to
I was
stop
saying
his
the other
popularity.
night.
So
Yeah.
if he signs it or if he doesn't sign it, I don't think that makes any difference.
No, absolutely not. In fact, if he doesn't sign it and he shows up, actually, I don't know that he needs to show up. Because the others on the debate stage will say, well, he didn't want to debate us. But that won't be the story. It will be, well, they want me to sign a pledge, which is meaningless, and I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to compromise, so they told me I couldn't come.
Well,
and he doesn't, that's the difference, is that with him, he's actually in control of that with his base, and nothing will change that.
Well, that's why I'm stating, why not show up and say I want to be part of it, and they say no, and the whole headline is Trump's kicked out of the debate.
Oh, yeah. If you want to make the noise, yeah.
Nobody's paying to the debate anymore, and his whole thing would be to blow up the RNC at that point.
Yep.
Because Ronna McDaniel will be directly responsible for the debacle that had nothing to do with the debate, but the fact that Trump was kicked out.
Yeah, if I'm advising him, I tell him to do exactly that. Show up and make sure the liberal media outside has a comment from you. They wouldn't let me in.
They wouldn't let me in, but sorry, I can't support this person who doesn't believe this, and this.
Yeah.
If we're the Republican Party, forget about, here's what I would do. I mean, this is what I would do. I might do. I don't think I'd be in the situation that they're all in, though. But, the Republican Party is so out of touch. They're talking about pledges. I'm talking about people that agree with where the Republican Party stands on all these issues that are so important, like this, and this. And this candidate doesn't support this, and this candidate doesn't support that. I don't care about the label Republican. We're not the no labels party. We stand for something, and if you don't stand for it, I'm not going to endorse you or say if you get the nomination, I'm going to endorse you because these are the beliefs of the majority of Republicans. That's what I would do if I'm not. And that separates you. I mean, politically, that separates you. You're still a Republican. You're talking about Republican values, and what you're saying is exactly what Trump has said the entire time since 2015, because remember, the original swamp was the Republicans.
Yeah. Well, because you can easily stand there and say, this is something I've been complaining about for years, how bad the GOP is, and we all know it. I said it in 2016 when I won. I've been saying it since. And they've demonstrated how they are not focused on what America is concerned about. Nobody cares about this pledge. Nobody cares about it. It doesn't mean anything. It's their way of keeping me off the stage. You play victim for a second. And the liberal media will carry that for you all day long.
And so you sit there and what you do is you diffuse the fact that Christie, because I was seeing somebody on MSNBC, Trump won't show he's afraid because of Christie. Well, he should say, no, I was there. I was ready to debate. They told me I had to sign a pledge. I'm not signing a pledge to put somebody in there who would just be a president of the United States. And so the executive branch would be also controlled by the swamp. You could make it that simple. That I'm here to debate. I'm not afraid of anybody to debate. I'm not signing a stupid pledge because some of those people on stage don't agree with the core beliefs of the Republican Party. And just leave it at that. And then you can't have Chris Christie at the debate saying, Trump didn't show because he was scared of me. The explanation has to be longer. Trump didn't show because he wouldn't sign the pledge, so he's afraid of me. Well, does that really work as an argument? No. So politically, if he didn't show up, I'm sorry. If he didn't show up, that might not be a bad political move.
Right. Well, either way, you can play it the same. Because, look, it's going to have a different visual if you're showing up and they keep you out. You know, that has a stronger immediate effect in that the liberal media is going to be, carrying that visual, the clip of you standing outside saying, well, they didn't want me on that stage, clearly. I don't know. Here's the thing, too. I don't know what they're afraid of. And all of that will play out in the media. And if you don't show up, you say the same thing. And the media will still carry it. It may not have the same visual impact. It just depends on how you do it and how you deliver it.
Let's quickly go to Jamie in Reno. Jamie, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Hi.
Hey, how you guys doing this evening?
Good.
Thanks for giving me a sick opportunity to get in and talk to you guys. Anyway, I wanted to mention that if Trump doesn't debate in the primary and assume he does win the nomination, if he goes on to debate Biden in the general, it gives Biden out of, number one, he's going to want to say, well, I won't debate a convicted felon if that's the case, or someone under investigation. But it also gives Biden the out of saying, well, I'm not going to debate him. He didn't even debate his own people. If for some reason they keep him out of these debates.
Well, and that's why he should show for the debate. If he doesn't sign it, he should still.
What you said,
he should still.
He shows and says, "I'm at least ready to debate." Then
right.
at least
I'm ready to debate. I wasn't going to abide by the stupid pledge and I think a lot of Republicans. I don't know. I mean, I don't. Ronna McDaniel saying, she went, town to town across, and Republicans all want you to sign the pledge. Well, that's, I'm going to vote for the Republican nominee. Most likely, I don't want to read in the future, but most likely I will vote for the Republican nominee. And I'm saying that because I don't know. You might have, I'm trying to think, somebody else might jump in at the last second. But most likely I'll support the nominee. And the pledge I could care less about.
No,
I think it's...
Well, maybe if we're lucky, he'll have enough friction with Ron McDaniel and bounce her out of this whole situation, so we have a better option in there for next time.
Yeah, well, I just, again, and it's not this, I don't come to my conclusion, thanks so much for your call, Jamie, based on partisanship. I base it on the issues. I base the fact that, look, if I ran as a Republican, I know I'm going to have different issues, from there, and there are some people on this debate stage that I don't want to see representing me. Now, they may represent the Republican Party, but I'm here in the Republican Party because I bring these 5 issues, hypothetically, these 5 issues that I'm not running for president, these 5 issues that, that 75% of Republicans agree on. There's massive consensus on this. These people believe this, and this. And I just can't support them on the issues. So you're talking about I can't support somebody because of the issues. That's a legit argument to make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, when the GOP does things like, if we start having a real conversation about controlling the debate during and where the debates are going to be and the moderators and everything during the main general debate between the 2 nominees, then now you've got my attention. That's exactly what I want them to do. But it's going the opposite direction when you say you must sign this pledge to support the nominee. Nope. You're asking me to do something that I don't believe.
Yeah, I'm not important here. You as a Republican Party need to choose the nominee that best represents you on the issues and values.
And forcing
forcing
me to do something I don't believe in,
right,
is a very liberal idea.
Ooh.
It is.
I
think
the,
about
the,
that.
The ooh was like that was a positive ooh.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. No, I got it.
I was like, ooh, that's good.
Yeah. Well, it is.
86 politically, and by the way, we're doing this as political consultants here. What would be a good move? And that was just good. Yeah. Why are you forcing me to say something? Why are you forcing me to basically say that I'm going to support someone who I might not actually support?
Right.
Why are we pretending? Democrats pretend. We don't.
Right.
Ooh.
It's a very liberal idea, very liberal approach.
866-90 Red Eye.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Drivers must always be prepared for a roadside inspection. This means drivers should always have their personal, vehicle, and company credentials organized and ready, and having any shipment paperwork such as bills of lading or hazardous materials shipment emergency response information organized and ready for the inspection official. Just an FYI, the top 2 violations written against drivers every year, as well as during Operation Road Check, are log general form and manner and log not current. Both are completely avoidable if the driver keeps the log accurate, compliant, and current at all times. Having the vehicle ready for inspection involves the driver conducting daily inspections and making sure any problems that are discovered are immediately corrected. Vehicle readiness also requires the company to make sure that the vehicle is current on all scheduled maintenance and that the maintenance schedule is adequate. This will make sure the driver is being given a sound vehicle to start with. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I mean, Trump's really the only guy that could do that, though. I was thinking, could Christie do it? Because Christie, they asked Christie on Sunday, well, you haven't signed the pledge yet. He goes, nobody's given it to me.
Well, if he shows up and hasn't signed the pledge, if he walks up to the door and says, hey, I want in, but I haven't signed it, and you are Chris Christie, and that means what? Do you have an ID or something? Where would I know you from? David Spade at the door. And you are...
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Would you sit over there?
Yeah. We'll be right back.
Wait with the rest of the
other
people
of the people that are here to watch the debate.
that we're not letting in either.
You're a threat to democracy if you don't download our app, Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know, I was going through, since, we both subscribe to National Review, I actually have the National Review, basically the blog, the private Facebook site. And somebody brought up, because we were just chuckling about Chris Christie, someone was like, I don't get it. What happened with Chris Christie? When was it that Chris Christie lost favor with the Republican Party? When did that happen? He was so popular, and I don't know if the person was playing stupid or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because I knew immediately for me the point, and that was when he was groveling behind Trump.
Yeah.
After the election.
Right. Yeah.
It was a horrible moment, from him, and I don't know whether he was looking for a position in the with the Trump administration or whatever, but it just was such a bad. It wasn't him.
Well, not only that, but now you add to it, he's piling on saying Republicans shouldn't have supported him. You got to put yourself first in that line. If you're going after Republicans who supported him back then, then you have to put yourself first in that line. Because he's saying, well, they never should have. He's implying they never should have supported Trump. They never should have backed Trump. If you're saying that and saying, I'll start with myself, then fair enough. But he's making it seem like he's not included. He might say, you know what? I supported him then. I don't support him now. Okay? That sounds reasonable. But don't make it sound like you always knew. And that's what he does. He says, they were wrong back then for doing this and this and that. You played your political game the way you played it, too.
And then recently it was his totally befuddling support of Christopher Wray, which made no sense, especially from somebody who was portraying the fact that he, basically promoting that he is for law and order, that he's a law and order guy. And when you see the rot that exists in the FBI, and we knew about the FD 1023 at that point. We knew that Wray had lied to Comer.
Yeah.
At that point, because that was the accusation, and he never came out and said that never happened. He just was quiet on it. And we know that if he believes that somebody's telling a lie on him, Christopher Wray, he'd be the first to correct it, and he did not.
Right.
And so for Christie to come out and say he supports Christopher Wray, it's like, sorry, dude.
Yep. I mean, this is, you can talk about the beginning of Chris Christie when he first became governor of New Jersey, his real rise on the national stage. And you look at the things that he talked about back then as governor of New Jersey, coming in, trying to fix what a lot of Democrats have put into play for a long, long time. And we've seen that in other states. And he was rising within the party because of some of the things that he was doing then. You can also lose your credibility along the way very quickly. And if anybody that is asking the question, you clearly don't understand that, and you don't know how the political game is played. You don't know the dynamics in the American political landscape. Clearly.
But no, I would vote for Christie over any Democrat.
Oh, all day.
But my loss of support for him, because when he was governor of New Jersey, we thought he did as good of a job as he could in the situation that he was in. And we were always impressed that, with Chris Christie when he spoke before the firefighters and they were booing him. And he was blunt, and he made great points. He said, don't boo me, I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah.
You supported people who lied to you and promised you something that they knew they couldn't keep, but they knew they'd be out of office. So they promised you the world. They lied to you. I'm telling you the truth, and you're booing me, and you accepted them lying to you because it's what you wanted to hear, even though it was never going to be. And I thought that was extremely solid when he did that. But really, just the whole Wray thing, because the Wray thing was really a huge disappointment. Mm-hmm. Sort of like Nikki Haley talking about, oh, Disney moved to South Carolina. You just don't get it.
Right.
Yep. Just don't get it.
Yep.
Look, there are things legitimately that you can go after Trump about. Legitimately.
Yep.
But when you go after, or you make statements that go against what the majority of Republicans want, just so you can think you get some type of bonus points over Trump. Look, we've criticized Trump on ethanol.
Yeah.
Right. We've been blunt. The majority of Republicans are under the wrong impression that Trump changed trade drastically in this country with USMCA. He did not.
Right.
That was his intent, but he didn't end up doing it. And that's fine with us because I was happy. And we actually said, I'm happy that he did do the things that he wanted to do with the protectionist things, and he finally backed off on them, but was still selling it to his constituents who were like, yeah. And we actually said it was sort of like when Ron Paul.
Yeah.
When we would get calls from totally loyal Ron Paul supporters saying, Ron Paul's against free trade. He's against free trade. And so that's why we want to vote for him. And this went on for years. And we had to instruct them, no, Ron Paul is for absolutely complete and total free trade.
Unmanaged free trade is what he promoted.
Right.
And they took it wrong when he said, I don't like NAFTA.
Right. I don't like NAFTA. They took it as, and they had it. And we dealt with that for years.
Mm-hmm.
You guys don't know what you're talking about. Here's Ron Paul. We would play quotes, and we would still get calls. You guys must have edited it. You must have done. No. Ron Paul was for absolute free trade, no regulated trade at all. I never forget he said one day a small company in Arkansas should be able to trade with anybody in Egypt.
Right.
Remember, he just kept, or anywhere else in the world. And so, that happens at times, but, when the parts of the free trade agreement that he changed made automobile parts more expensive to buy in the United States, Mexico, and Canada.
Right.
The one big change he made actually hurt the economy.
Right.
But that's the only thing he did, and those things probably would have been made in different countries anyway, but you basically, because of what he did with auto parts, made it so they're not produced in North America.
Right.
That they're going to move to other places. But he didn't drastically change NAFTA. But people, we said it before, people like if the narrative is the same, if the substance of the narrative changes, so many people don't care, and that happened with some Trump supporters there.
Yeah, sure.
So we have no problem going after him on ethanol. We should not be subsidizing ethanol. He's been blunt. I'm going to give farmers subsidies for something that exactly what we've talked about EVs, for something Americans don't want and aren't asking for because I'll get their vote. That's conservative.
He talked about that in 2016.
Yeah. He was blunt about it.
That you can't talk about changing ethanol mandates, Ted Cruz, in Iowa.
And as we mentioned,
and it turns out that Ted Cruz won Iowa in 2016.
And as we mentioned, the Republicans yesterday that have gone along with the EVs and the whole climate change and wind power and alternative. And we mentioned Governor Abbott, Newt Gingrich, Trump with Lordstown.
Yep.
Supporting it completely. Now, these are the kind of electric vehicles you should make. Stop BSing the public.
Well, because as long as you do that, then the liberals get away with everything they're doing and more.
Right.
That's how you get to the mandates. And that's how you convince all of Americans, by the way, because everybody points to it and says, oh, no, this is bipartisan.
And so, but as I've said, with all my disagreements on Trump, a normal Republican, I probably would agree with 60%. Trump probably had 75% of my support.
Mm-hmm.
I could still bring up the things I disagreed with him on the issues. And if you can do it legitimately, and those are legit things. But like when Nikki Haley did the thing, to try to take the shot at DeSantis, well, move it here, stop it.
Right.
You're not even convincing. You think you're getting some cheap shot at DeSantis, you're hurting yourself.
Yep.
Oh, so you're going to allow Disney to move there? And all of a sudden, Nikki Haley, you become supportive of young kids 5 years old being taught sexualized content? Because that was the message she sent out.
Mm-hmm.
That was stupid.
Right.
And Christie with Christopher Wray was dumb.
And
well, just like Ramaswamy the other day when he did the great thing on the whole radical transgender movement. That was great, but a couple days before was talking about, well, I sort of differ with the Republicans when it comes to the legalization of hard drugs. Shut up!
Well, because first of all, you're never going to win that.
No.
And trying to even have any discussion on that does not serve you politically at all. But you know what? I'm glad he said it. I'm glad they do the things they do and say the things that they say because it tells me exactly who they are.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, let us go to Richard in Chattanooga about the pledge. Richard, hi. You're on Red Eye Radio. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, gentlemen. Hey, listen, now I heard talk the other day from a friend of mine. We were talking about this, and he said that he heard that there was a strong possibility that Trump wouldn't even be on all the ballots in all 50 states, wouldn't be on all 50 states ballots.
If he's a Republican, he would be.
Okay, so if he is the nominated one, he has to be on all the ballots. Okay, so
right.
That's fair. Okay, that's good. But what if he doesn't become the nominee and he wants to run as a third party? He's just going to suck votes away from DeSantis or whoever would be the nominee. But that was basically where I was going to go with this. It's like if the Republicans really want to hit Trump, they ought to play that angle on it because
well, it's interesting
because he can't be on all 50 ballots.
Yeah, I mean, he would have to have a massive fund. Here's the thing: the problem that he would have, that if he ran as you look at it right now, and with everything that he faces, where would he's got massive legal bills still, and I know a lot of them have been paid by his campaign funds, but there are more massive legal bills coming, and that's one of the concerns. How is he going to allocate his campaign funds? Because so much of the campaign funds are going to face right now 4 different trials that he's going to be involved in. So if he's going to be if he's going to be an independent candidate and run on his own, he's going to have to get in the every single 50 state ballots in order to do so. Because what other party is going to say we want you to be our nominee that is in all 50 states? And so that's going to cost a ton of money to do so. And is he willing to spend his money to do that? And does he have the ability to fundraise, especially from large donors, to be able to do that? And I don't know if he can. He might be able to, but that would be the challenge that he would have.
Yeah. Okay. That answers what I had to say, because when you said that if he was the nominee, he has to be on the ballots. That's what I was concerned about.
Yeah, because the Republican Party's on every state ballot.
Right.
It's because he's a Republican that gets him on it.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, gentlemen.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Mortgage rates could hit 8%. We'll get to that story coming up here in a little bit. And the Wall Street Journal story, there it is, Hawaiian Electric focused on climate change, neglected wildfire risk. A Wall Street Journal article on that yesterday. And plus, we will require all of our audience to take a loyalty pledge starting next week.
Yes.
You will be getting the documents by email.
And you must sign them and return them, or else we'll do nothing. We're identical to the GOP. It will mean nothing.
And also a free...
And by the way, don't make us do nothing, because we will do it.
And there's also a free speech case the other day that we want to tell you about. And also north of $50 million is what it could be.
Oh.
That the Biden payouts are.
Wow.
More coming up.
Why did I have $50 million in my mind? I've been saying that number.
No, you did.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.